Okay, students, so today we are going to be talking about something that we see daily. Trees. Trees are used for many reasons. Now, I want you to raise your hand if you have at least one tree in your yard or near your house. If you look around, you will see that many of us, if not all of us, do. Most of these trees are used for landscaping, to make yards and areas look pretty and natural. Another thing that trees are used for is for food. This includes apples, lemons, peaches, pears, prunes, and so much more. The third way that trees are used for is for shade. A shade tree is usually really big, and its purpose is to give us shelter from the sunlight. We all know that sometimes the sunlight can be very bright and hot, so this helps us cool down on a hot and sunny day. Trees benefit us in many ways. The first way is that trees help benefit us socially. They provide us privacy from our neighbors. They can reduce sunlight and provide us shade, as I mentioned before. They can create a beautiful and natural landscaping for our community. They can also bring in a lot of wildlife, such as deer, squirrels, and birds. The second way that trees benefit us is environmentally. They help us breathe in oxygen. They provide homes for animals, such as a bird's nest for baby birds. And they improve our air by fighting off harmful things and filtering them out. The third way that trees benefit us is economically. They provide us with materials that we need, such as wood and food. As I mentioned before, tall trees can provide us with shade to help us cool off from the sun. This can reduce our heating and cooling costs by 8 to 12%. The activity I chose is called 3 Cheers for Trees. The purpose is to have students appreciate trees and understand why they are important. The two objectives that students will be able to describe and the benefits of trees in their community, and they will understand why we need trees. This activity is for second grade, and the subjects areas include science, social studies, and visual arts. Before starting this activity, you will want to create a list on the board of the following: playground, school grounds, city streets, neighborhood, park, zoo, highway, picnic area, backyard, and farm. All right, students, we are going to be doing an activity today. This activity is called 3 Cheers for Trees. If you look at the board, you will see that I have 10 different places written down. At this time, you can have the students either volunteer to say each place, or you can say it as a class. This just helps the students get involved. Okay, now I'm going to come around and give you a half sheet of paper. On this paper, there will be one of the 10 places listed. The place you get will be what you focus on for this activity. While I am passing this out, I want you to get out either colored pencils or crayons. Having the places written down on the half sheet of paper is just going to make sure that each place is accounted for. Okay, so now that you know what your place is, you have your sheet of paper and your colored pencils or crayons out, I am going to be explaining what we are going to do today. So, I want you to draw your assigned place, but you cannot draw any trees in your picture. If you forget what to do, the directions will be written on the board. You will have 10 minutes to work on this. You may start now. You will want to make sure to put up the directions on the board, such as draw your place, but without trees, just to make sure that students understand that they should not draw any trees. Here is an example of a neighborhood without any trees. I have some houses, I have a road, some grass, a sky, and the sun. After the 10 minutes is up, have students stop drawing. All right, so now I'm going to come around and pass out another half sheet of paper. On this paper, I want you to draw your place again, but this time around, you can include as many trees as you want. You will have 10 minutes to do this. You may start now. So here is a drawing of my picture again. If you remember, it looks pretty similar, but this time there is a bunch of trees. After the 10 minutes is up, ask students to line up with both of their drawings and just stand behind you. You should tell your students that you are going to tape up their pictures on the wall so that everyone can see what you were working on. Okay, students, so let's go back to our seats. If you look around the room, you will be able to see everyone's drawing. So now let's talk about it. I want a few volunteers to tell me which environment they would like to live in. The one with a lot of trees, some trees, or no trees, and why. Hopefully the students will want to live in the area with the most trees, or at least some trees, because it looks a lot better. Now, I want you to turn to the person next to you and talk about some of the benefits that trees have in our community. You may want to think about what we have learned at the beginning of the class or think of some new examples. During this time, you should give the students at least 5 minutes to talk to the person next to them. And you should be walking around the classroom to make sure students are on topic and or to help come up with some new ideas. Okay, students. So now I want you to share with the class, and we are going to create a list. As you call on students, write down what they say on the board. Hopefully the students will be able to come up with many ideas, such as trees help us filter out bad stuff, wildlife lives in trees, wildlife eats the leaves and fruits on our trees, trees provide us with wood, they provide us with food, they protect us from the sun, and they protect us from the wind. There's a lot more, but those are just a few examples. If students have a hard time coming up with ideas, you should ask them questions such as, do you think the tree blocks us from the sun? Do you think trees block us from the wind? And hopefully this will just get them thinking about other things as well. If there is an example that does not work, you should tell them right away and explain why. Most examples are going to work, but just in case. Now I want you all to look at the list that we have created. Notice that there are many reasons why trees benefit us, and there are even more ways that we didn't even come up with. Hopefully, we can all look at trees differently and appreciate them. In my opinion, this is a great activity for all learning styles, but there could be a few modifications to really help everyone. For visual learners, you could provide even more pictures and examples on slides at the beginning when you're describing how trees are useful. So maybe you can add more, like instead of just having apple trees, you could have lemon trees, pear trees, like all the different types of trees. And even when you're describing the animals that are benefited by trees, instead of just having deer, you could have even more, such as birds and rabbits and squirrels. Not only that, but you could have them present to the person next to them about their drawing before hanging them up. This will allow them to look at someone else's artwork up close and for them to be able to explain their own. For auditory learners, you could have them participate in more classroom or even partner discussion. You will want to come up with more questions. You could even ask them, like, what kind of fruit grows on a tree, and have them answer those questions instead of you telling them. For kinesthetic learners, you could have a few students present their drawings to the entire class or just a partner. Like I said, this would work for visual learners as well, but especially for kinesthetic learners, like having them present and talk about their artwork, not just show them and be like, oh, this is what I draw. Like, no, like I drew a road, I drew some trees, I drew houses, I drew the sun, I drew the sky, and yeah, the sun is coming down, but those trees are protecting us. Something like that. For tactile learners, you could have them even add on to their drawings after the discussion and creating the list of benefits. Just because now they probably have a lot more ideas and they want to make their communities look a lot better by adding more and more and more. They can even add like flowers and bushes and that stuff as well. And even deer and birds. If you were to do this activity with older students, you could use bigger terms and go into more facts. Instead of having them draw out the picture, you can have them go outside and take pictures of trees in their community, or even like a snapshot of a landscape, and remove all the trees by using technology. This will get them thinking about this activity and understand why we really need trees, and it's gonna help them understand that a lot better. Some extensions that you could do is to have students plant a few trees on the school property and then discuss about how those trees will benefit the community. You could do this before doing the brainstorm. You could do this after the brainstorm and just have them, think about more ideas, just whatever will work. Another thing that you could do is to take a field trip to a park or a natural reserve, or even just stay on school grounds to observe trees. This will allow students to see some of the benefits that were talked about in class. Like, for example, if you take students to a natural reserve, there is most likely going to be a lot of squirrels running around, and you will be able to talk to students and say, hey, like, these squirrels are around because of the trees. Some trees have acorns on them, and squirrels eat acorns, so that is their food source, and some of the squirrels actually live in the trees, so that is why there's squirrels in this area. So doing that is gonna really get them thinking about trees a lot more, and yeah.